On today's episode of Pure Screen Gems podcast, it's time once again to step into the TARDIS with the Doctor and his companion, Ruby Sunday, as I give you my thoughts and spoiler-filled review of the third episode of the new season of Doctor Who, entitled Boom, starting right now. Well, hello and welcome back to all my fellow Whovians and Nuvians to another review of Doctor Who Season 1, Episode 3, entitled Boom. Now, this one was really different from any other episode I've ever seen before. As I said in the other episode, what did the title Boom mean? Did it mean baby boom, kaboom, or another kind of boom? Well, we find out in this episode that it kind of had a triple meaning. One was the arms boom, another was the real kind of boom, as in landmines, and the other was the arms boom. So in a way, it all fit together, it all linked together. Compared to the other two episodes this season, this had a much darker tone. Rightfully so, because this was not Russell T Davies who wrote this. It was Stephen Moffat who came back to write this episode. This was more his style. It was really a fascinating episode where we're dealing with the military industrial complex. We're dealing with religion motivated wars. We're dealing with AI and technology, removing the human element of it all. But we're also dealing with love and how father and daughter can overcome things down the road. And of course, adding to some more of the mystery here in Doctor Who, especially concerning Ruby. And it upped the stakes for that episode. It gave us something to hold on to it kind of hooked us because we didn't know what to expect. As we started to watch this episode, we saw a war-torn wasteland. We had no idea what was going on. All we were seeing was one man who was blind being led and talking on, well, his communication at the time, in that era, what his communication device is his finger, talking to his daughter. And by the way, that's pretty much practical. You don't need to recharge your finger, so that's pretty good. But all in all, this is a solid story. When you think about it, even though it is self-contained, and when I say self-contained, I mean it made me think of a one-act play where most of this episode took place in one setting, almost like it was in one room. Probably this was in the volume. I might be wrong, but the thing is, it was not several location shoots like, say, in last episode, The Devil's Cord. This was a one location shoot, or mostly. This comes to mind the Brendan Fraser movie, The Whale. If you haven't seen this, it is a brilliant movie. It is a great movie. It hooks you in, and you just don't realize how much of a great movie it is, even though it's mostly on one setting, one scene. Well, not one scene, but one set. Anyway, going back to this episode, there's also a lot of commentary being made about the military, faith, AI, It's a very heavy-centric episode. Not everybody will either get it or like it or even love it. That's for sure. I mean, not every episode will be liked by every Doctor Who fan. Well, just like not every movie is for everyone. Art is subjective. That's a fact. But you know what? From a writer's standpoint, when you see an episode where the Doctor stands on a landmine for almost 45 minutes, how do you make that interesting? That is a challenge, and Moffat made that interesting. He made that interesting enough for me to be glued to the episode, to my television screen. He really made it interesting enough for the episode to keep it going, to keep it moving, for the pacing to be good. I felt there were really tense moments in this episode. I mean, really. I thought we were going to lose Ruby. I mean, action scenes, I'm not saying they're easy, but they're more interesting than just seeing someone standing on a landmine. But Shuchigadwa made that performance interesting and engaging, at the same time trying to keep his zen moment. Let me ask you this. Since I'm a Nubian, I'd like to know, is this a typical Stephen Moffat episode? The fact that this is a darker episode and Russell T Davies is typically more whimsical? I would really like to know, so could you please leave your comments down below on YouTube? Is this what I should expect from Stephen Moffat as a writer? Not that I don't like this kind of storytelling, I'm just curious to know. Being new to the Doctor Who universe, I feel that this is some really great sci-fi, and there are really good elements to this episode and to this series. I mean, yes, it's topical. However, for example, great sci-fi novels are always making a commentary that feels futuristic, but very much topical to what's going on in our world today. And so I like that was a very strong element throughout this particular episode, that they didn't beat you over the head with it, that they used the Doctor's occasional, nerd rage to call out the church and call out the military, even though he does have a respect for the church and the military. He always comes from a scientist's point of view. As I think about the relationship between the Doctor and Ruby, I go back towards the beginning of the episode where the Doctor just stepped on the landmine and asks Ruby to look for something heavy, and she finds something and then looks up and is just awed by the sight that she sees, and the Doctor just doesn't realize that for her it's the first time that she sees something like that. When I saw that, it brought me back years ago when I had met someone, I'd say about 30 years ago, who came from Alberta, who was brand new to the Ottawa region, and she had never seen the Parliament. And we were just walking by, and she saw it for the first time. Now for me, I've seen it hundreds of times. But for her, it was like, wow, is that the Parliament? I said, yeah. To me, it was no biggie. But for her, it was amazing. It was wonderful for her, seeing it for the first time. So that's what it reminded me of, that when I saw Ruby seeing this guy as she picked up that cylinder. Anyways, I digress. Going back to this episode again. This episode fortified their connection even more. in my opinion. However, we also realize that they're still learning about each other. I mean, she's realizing how smart he is, and he's realizing that she's stubborn. I'll give you an example. She's walking towards him rather than just tossing the cylinder to him as he wanted, and he said, "No, yeah, right. Good luck with that. No, I'll just give it to you. If this works, I'll be very cross with you for a very long time." So they're still in the process of getting to know each other. But the way the doctor overcomes the whole situation is appealing to the AI, as he said, father to father, trying to overwrite the programming of that AI through his love for his daughter. I know I'm missing so much out of this episode. There's so much to unpack. But in the end, the thing is, if the doctor is not taken off or safely taken off the mine, half the planet is going to explode. So, the thing is, how do we take him off safely in a way that is feasible? And in my opinion, Stephen Moffat wrote the perfect way to do it. But in my opinion, putting the Doctor and Ruby in peril so early in the season, in the third episode, is to me a smart way to get us to care about them so fast. And I believe it worked. It was a way for us to stay glued to the screen, but also to want to come back next week to watch and see what happens next. When I think about this episode and the fact that they're waging basically a one-sided war, it makes me think of a Star Trek Next Generation episode, Season 1, I believe, Arsenal of Freedom, where again it was a big boom in weapons dealing. But at least in this episode, once they realized that there was no enemy and they stopped fighting and just simply surrendered, that was the solution. That was what they had to do. And I'm sure I'm missing something, but this was really an engaging, a tense episode with an underlining love story and a father-daughter relationship, which is a bond that can never be broken. So guys, there were so many elements, and I know I'm missing some that I've forgotten to talk about, but let me know, what were your favorite parts of this episode? What were the parts that you didn't like? Let me know down in the comments below, and please like and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you all, and I'll be back next week with the episode 73 Yards. Until next time, have fun time traveling with the Doctor. Bye bye.